My wife began growing distant. When I got sick, and after sleuthing, I found out that she was betraying me in the worst way possible. So I slowly ruined her life over the next 2 years, and on Christmas morning, I revealed everything I had done and destroyed her. When my wife told me she was a changed woman, I fully believed her, until she brutally called an innocent. She was my college sweetheart. We started dating in 2001 when we were both 19. We're both 41, and have been together ever since. When we first met, I caught her sticking gum to someone's seat before they sat down, and asked her what she was doing. She looked up at me, and her face went completely red. I was shocked. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. She stuttered and actually stopped the guy from sitting down, and apologized to him too. I actually asked her out and things went extremely well. So well that on the second date she came back to my place. I immediately noticed my $100 note on the shelf was missing, as well as 2 of the most expensive glasses from the kitchen. But I wasn't the nervous type. I immediately called her and asked where all my stuff went, and she broke down crying. I hung up and immediately drove to her front door. When she opened, she let me in and started crying again. I asked her what was wrong, and she began calling herself a monster. I tried to reassure her, but she cut me off and told me she is. She then opened up about her past, and how in high school she used to pick on people. There was this one autistic kid specifically she used to target, and now that she was in college, she wanted to turn over a new leaf. And, in her words, old habits die hard, and she was struggling a lot. My heart dropped. I was in the same position, except I was the victim, not the bully. In some twisted way, hearing a bully, that I was also falling in love with, discuss how sorry she was somewhat healing. It even made me smile. I hugged her, and that was a precious moment between us. And ever since then, I've forgiven her for things most guys wouldn't even dream of putting up with, simply because she promised me she wanted to change. And it was only after we had our first daughters, now 12 and 16, that I found out the truth. We were sitting on the couch, in our middle-class 4-bedroom home, while our daughters were at school, when she got the text. It was from her old high school best friend. My wife's face immediately went white, and she started crying harder than I'd ever seen. But when I read the texts, I found it hard to comfort her. Turns out, the woman with autism that she used to bully had taken her own life. I stood there shocked, and instead of telling my wife that it wasn't her fault, that it's been so long since then, that anything else could have happened, I just stared at her blankly, because her best friend had found out that my wife's name was explicitly mentioned in the note. Actually, it was more of an essay. She left an almost 1,000-word sheet detailing every gruesome detail that my wife had done to her. My wife used to stick gum in her hair, cut her clothes, ruin her belongings, and pay people to make this girl's life hell. At the end was a paragraph apologizing to her family, but also outlining every method of treatment that she underwent. Thousands of dollars poured into therapy, counseling, and at one point, rehab. And the worst part? The whole time, I had no idea, because my wife made it seem like by bullying, she just meant ignoring her and actively not being her friend. She didn't tell me she was a monster. I didn't know what to think, and even if I wanted to hug my wife, I couldn't, because at the time I had just gotten injured in my lower back. She tried to move my arm so I could hold her, but I just strained my face, mainly out of pain. I know I should have been suspicious that there was a part of the sewer slide note she wouldn't show me, but back then, I believed that everyone deserved their privacy. Between struggling with the injury, which was becoming much worse literally by the day, and finding out my wife was practically a murderer, life was bleak, to say the least. What made it worse was that the more my injury worsened, the more I relied on her for daily tasks like driving, tying shoelaces, everything. But all I wanted was some space from her. And after a while, I got it, but not in the way I'd hoped. "Can you at least try to pick up after yourself?" She'd snap while collecting my medication bottles from the bedside table. "I'm sorry," I'd reply, hating how helpless I felt. "The doctor said I shouldn't bend over." She'd sigh dramatically. Then, out of nowhere, my wife Lisa started hanging out with coworkers after work more frequently. Between November 2019 and February 2020, it became routine for her. I thought nothing of it. In 20 years, I'd never had reason to doubt her, in terms of loyalty at least. We each had our friends, plus mutual ones. I'd hang with my buddies regularly without issue. Everything seemed normal. At least, that's what I thought. But one sleepless night was enough to make our marriage come crashing down. Because after spending weeks pondering about my wife being who she said she was, and the note, my curiosity finally made me cave. While she slept, I read the entire sewer slide note, and the part she refused to show me wasn't even that bad, so I couldn't understand what made her hide it from me. For context, the girl had basically said something about how she was getting more guys now than my wife ever was, and that who she married, me, is just outright embarrassing. I didn't even feel hurt, just confused. But apparently, my wife cared a lot more than I did, because that section single-handedly caused her to destroy my life. It was around January that I noticed Lisa becoming distant. The casual affection she'd always shown, random hugs, kisses, stopped completely. Her phone became glued to her hand, which wasn't new, but she'd always shared things she found online, craft ideas from Pinterest, funny videos, etc. Now she was guarding her phone. Even her tone became sharper, like I was an annoyance. One evening, I walked into the kitchen where she was texting and asked, "Who are you talking to?" She practically jumped, clutching her phone to her chest. God, you scared me. No one. Just work stuff. At 10 p.m.? I asked, reaching for a glass of water. You know how it is with the new product launch. She quickly locked her screen and changed the subject. Did you take your meds? These little moments started adding up. When her phone would buzz with notifications, she'd turn it face down. She started taking calls in another room. Once, I walked in on her ending a call, and she looked flustered. Who was that? I asked casually. Just the office, she replied quickly. Budget meeting rescheduled. She hurried past me to the bathroom. It wasn't just the phone. She started putting more effort into her appearance. New clothes, a different hairstyle, more makeup than usual for work. One morning, I noticed she was wearing a perfume I'd never smelled before. That's new, I commented. Oh, sample from the department store, she said dismissively. Thought I'd try something different. By March, COVID hit, and our city went into lockdown. Our jobs were considered essential, so we still went to work. I'd just been cleared to return after 4 months of rehab and was eager to get back, as sitting around doing nothing had driven me crazy. For context, I'm usually very active. I play soccer 3 times weekly and hit the gym regularly, plus handle all our home renovation projects. Returning to work was both a relief and a challenge. My back wasn't fully healed, but being productive again helped my mental state. The COVID protocols made everything different. Masks, distancing, constant sanitizing. Still, it was better than being trapped at home with my increasingly distant wife. Within a week of lockdown, Lisa announced she needed to start working extra hours. Again, I didn't question it given her field. I assumed it would be every other day, but no, it was every day, and not just an hour or two. She'd come home 3+ hours late, immediately shower, briefly interact with me and our 12-year-old, 16-year-old lives with her boyfriend across town, then go to bed. Another late night? I asked after almost 2 weeks of this pattern. The pandemic has doubled our workload, she explained while peeling off her work clothes. Everyone's scrambling for medical supplies, and we're constantly on conference calls with hospitals. It made sense on paper. Her company was involved in distributing medical equipment, but something felt off about her explanation. One night, our youngest daughter Emma asked, Mom, why do you always have to shower as soon as you get home? Can't we play Uno first? Lisa looked uncomfortable. It's the virus, honey. I need to be extra careful not to bring anything home. I promise we'll play tomorrow. But tomorrow never seemed to come. Lisa's interactions with our daughters became increasingly perfunctory. Quick hugs, automated questions about school, which was now online, then retreat to the bedroom with her phone. As my back improved, we started being intimate again, but she was clearly mentally checked out, which I noticed immediately. By early April, the picture was becoming clearer. All signs pointed to her having an affair. That's when I decided to investigate. Our first time being intimate after my recovery was awkward and mechanical. She went through the motions but seemed distant, like her mind was elsewhere. When I tried to kiss her deeply, she turned her face slightly. When I suggested a position we'd always enjoyed, she claimed she was too tired. Afterward, she rolled away immediately and checked her phone. Everything, okay? I asked, feeling hurt and confused. Fine, she replied without looking at me. Just checking my work email. At 11:30 p.m. on a Saturday, I researched signs of infidelity online, and she was checking almost every box. Next, I searched for how to find proof. I started with her social media. Scrolling through her Facebook, I found the usual: family pics, friends, and several photos from nights out with coworkers. In these pictures, I noticed one guy consistently appearing too close to her, arm around her shoulder or hand on her lower back, way too familiar for someone I'd never met. The guy stood out immediately. Tall, probably 6 feet 2 inches, with dark hair styled in that modern undercut that younger guys wear. Athletic build, wearing expensive-looking clothes. In every picture, he was positioned next to Lisa, sometimes whispering in her ear, sometimes with his hand casually resting on her hip. The body language between them was undeniable. The slight lean toward each other, the playful smiles, the comfortable physical contact. I clicked on his profile tag, Marcus Johnson. His profile picture showed him rock climbing, shirtless, of course. According to his info, he was 26 years old and had been with Lisa's company for just under 2 years as a sales representative. He was the embodiment of the cocky young sales guy stereotype. The BMW profile banner photo, the designer sunglasses, the carefully curated adventure lifestyle posts. But here's what really set off alarms. This guy was friends with her on Facebook and followed her on Instagram, but when I tried to view his profile, blocked. Why would I be blocked from seeing this guy's account when he's friends with my wife? That's when detective mode kicked in. I was no longer trying to disprove my suspicions. I knew she was cheating with this guy. My mission became finding out for how long. The night I discovered I was blocked from viewing his profile was surreal. I remember sitting in my home office, the blue light from the screen illuminating the darkness, my hands shaking as I tried to process what this meant. I tried convincing myself there might be an innocent explanation, but deep down, I knew better. Maybe he blocks all his co-workers' spouses for privacy, I said out loud to the empty room. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew how ridiculous they sounded. Throughout April and May, I dug deeper. I had no idea how much information you could get from phone and text records until then. Our family phone plan provided access to quite a bit of data. Lisa's contact history showed the 2 numbers she interacted with most from October 2019 to April 2020 were mine, and another I didn't recognize. One quick Google search confirmed it belonged to the guy from the photos who blocked me on Facebook. Let's call him Jerk, because that's what he is. The call logs were damning. While I was lying in bed recovering from surgery, struggling with pain and depression, Lisa was spending hours on the phone with this guy. There were calls at odd times, early mornings before she left for work, late nights after she thought I was asleep, even during her lunch breaks. Some calls lasted only a minute or two, quick check-ins, while others went on for over an hour. The text logs were even worse. Hundreds of messages every day, starting as early as 5 a.m. and often continuing until after midnight. The volume increased dramatically during my recovery period, which explained why she seemed so distracted and irritable around me. She wasn't just dealing with the burden of my care, she was actively engaged in an emotional affair at minimum. The picture became clearer, but many of their messages were disjointed, suggesting she was deleting texts. I knew she was cheating, but needed something concrete. That's when I told my best friend Dave what I'd found. He asked if I'd confronted her, and I said no, because I felt I needed more evidence. Dave told me about an app that could monitor her communications in real time. I installed it, synced with our data plan, and waited. Dave and I met at his place to talk about it. I needed to confide in someone before I completely lost my mind. I think Lisa's having an affair, I said, the words feeling strange coming out of my mouth. Dave's expression changed from curiosity to concern. What makes you think that? I showed him the Facebook photos, the call logs, everything I'd gathered so far. He studied it all carefully, his brow furrowed. This doesn't look good, man, he finally said. But you need to be absolutely sure before you confront her. You've been together 20 years. I know, I replied, running my hands through my hair. That's why I need something concrete, something she can't deny or explain away. Dave hesitated, then pulled out his phone. There's an app my brother used when he suspected his wife. It's not exactly ethical, but it'll give you the truth. He showed me how to install it, how to sync it with our account, how to hide it so Lisa wouldn't know it was there. I felt sick doing it, invading her privacy like this, but I needed to know. Within days, I saw it, a text conversation between them discussing how much fun they'd had the previous night and making plans for the weekend. Gut punch. I was completely devastated. This was my D-Day, and for the next 2 days, I was simply broken. I distanced myself from her, which visibly unsettled her. She tried asking what was wrong, but I brushed her off and left the room. I couldn't even look at her. This woman I'd given 20 years to, who I'd provided everything for, had stepped outside our marriage for a guy barely older than our eldest daughter. The texts were explicit enough to remove any doubt. Jerk. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about how you felt. Lisa. I know. Me too. When can I see you again? Jerk. Is he working late Friday? Lisa. Yes. Said he'll be at the warehouse until 8. Come over at 6. Jerk. Perfect. Wear that black thing I like. Lisa. Anything for you. I stared at my phone screen, reading and rereading their exchange, feeling physically ill. 20 years of marriage, 2 children, countless memories, all of it seemingly meaningless to her. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I'd drift off for an hour, then jolt awake, my mind replaying their messages on an endless loop. When Lisa tried talking to me, I could barely respond. The sound of her voice, once comforting, now made my skin crawl. How could she act so normal? How could she look me in the eyes after what she'd done? Are you feeling okay? She asked one evening, her hand reaching for my forehead. You seem off. I flinched away from her touch. I'm fine, just tired. Her eyes narrowed with concern. Or was it suspicion? You're not yourself lately. Is your back bothering you again? No, I replied, my voice flat. Just leave me alone, please. By the 3rd day, sadness transformed into rage. I contacted Dave to confirm my suspicions were right, and he asked if I'd confronted her yet. I said no. I didn't just want a divorce. I wanted to destroy her. I wanted to leave her life in shambles. It would take time, but I had a plan. I need you to listen to me, Dave said over the phone. This is going to sound crazy, but don't confront her yet. Why the hell not? I demanded. I have proof she's screwing this guy. Because if you confront her now, she'll control the narrative, Dave explained. She'll minimize it, gaslight you, make excuses. You need to be strategic. Strategic how? I want her out of my house tonight. Think long term, Dave advised. You have a lot to lose here. The house, time with your kids, your finances. If you play this right, you can protect yourself and make sure she doesn't get away with this. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the rage coursing through me. What do you suggest? Document everything. Build your case. Talk to a lawyer before you tip your hand. And make her sweat a little. During my research on infidelity, I came across a phrase that stuck with me. The enemy of infidelity is unpredictability. That became the foundation of my plan. I would make her life hell while secretly planning my exit. The strategy was elegant in its simplicity. Change my behavior just enough to make her uncomfortable, make her question what I knew, make her worry about her secure little arrangement. Meanwhile, I'd gather evidence, prepare financially, and set up my escape. I wouldn't confront her until I was ready to completely destroy her world. By early June, I continued gathering data through the app. They were communicating like they were in a full relationship. Romantic messages, sexting, explicit photos, everything. I stopped reading the content and just collected information, cataloging it all on my private server. Meanwhile, I started behaving out of character. I began going out at odd hours and coming home even later than she did. When in her presence, I'd be glued to my phone, and if she asked what I was doing, I'd simply say, just stuff, and put it away. The first time I implemented this new behavior, Lisa looked genuinely confused. I'd been home consistently at 5:30 p.m. for years, but suddenly I texted, don't wait dinner, working late. I wasn't actually working. I was sitting in a coffee shop 3 blocks from the office, planning my next moves. When I finally came home around 9 p.m., Lisa was waiting in the living room. "Where were you?" she asked, trying to sound casual but failing. I shrugged. "Work stuff. Got complicated." "You could have called," she said, her voice slightly accusatory. I looked up from my phone. I texted. "Isn't that what you do?" Her face flushed slightly. The parallel to her own behavior wasn't lost on her. I changed all my passwords, which was significant because throughout our marriage, we'd never hidden anything from each other. But around when I suspect her affair started, she'd changed her Facebook and phone passwords, claiming security breaches necessitated it. "Yeah, right. Nice cover for hiding your affair." "Why can't I log into the Netflix account?" she asked one evening. "Change the password," I replied without looking up from my book. "Well, what is it?" "I'll log in for you," I offered, taking her iPad and entering it without letting her see. "Why can't you just tell me?" she pressed. I shrugged. "Been changing all my passwords lately. Security concerns." She couldn't argue without being hypocritical. The confusion and frustration on her face was priceless. I told Dave my plan, along with my older sister and 2 close friends. These are people I trust with my life, and I swore them to secrecy. Dave and I have been friends since elementary school. My other friends, Jack and Rachel, we've known since college. Remember Rachel? She becomes important later. My sister was hesitant about my approach. "Are you sure you want to play games? Why not just confront her and be done with it?" "Because she'll lie," I explained. "She'll minimize it. She'll make me sound paranoid. I need her to know that I know everything, and I need to be protected legally before that happens." Jack was more supportive. "Man, I get it. She betrayed you in the worst way possible. Make her sweat." Rachel's reaction was the most visceral. "That bitch," she said when I showed her the evidence. "After everything you've done for her, she doesn't deserve a quick and easy divorce. She deserves to feel what she's put you through." By July, Lisa was in full paranoia mode. She was calling and texting constantly, asking when I'd be home, where I was, what I was doing. The seed of doubt I'd planted was growing, evident in her communications with Jerk. She confided her concerns to him, telling him I was becoming cold and distant. The nerve of this woman. Her texts to Jerk became increasingly frantic. "Lisa, he's acting weird again. Came home at 11 last night smelling like perfume." Jerk, "You think he's seeing someone?" Lisa, "I don't know. He's never done this before. Always been so predictable." Jerk, "Maybe he's working late like he says." Lisa, "For 3 weeks straight? And he's showering at night now. He never used to do that." I hadn't actually been with anyone, of course. The perfume was a sample I'd sprayed on my shirt at the mall. The late nights were spent at Dave's or my sister's place. The nighttime showers were just to mess with her head, give her a taste of her own medicine. In one exchange, she suggested they stop meeting at our house because she wasn't sure when I might show up, confirming they'd been in my home. "Thanks, Lisa." Jerk asked if she was worried I might be cheating on her, which actually angered her. I can't describe the joy I felt reading that exchange. My cheating wife arguing with her affair partner about whether she was upset that her husband might be cheating. The irony was delicious. "Lisa, I'm not comfortable with you coming to the house anymore." Jerk, "Why? We've been careful." Lisa, "He's unpredictable now. Shows up at random times." Jerk, "Use my place then." Lisa, "Your roommates are always there." Jerk, "Hotel?" Lisa, "Maybe. I just need to figure out what's going on with him." Jerk, "Are you actually upset that he might be cheating on you? Seriously?" Lisa, "You don't understand. This isn't like him." Jerk, "But it's okay for you to be with me? Kind of hypocritical, don't you think?" Lisa, "It's different and you know it. Our marriage has been dead for years." That last message felt like a knife to the gut. Dead for years? We'd had our struggles like any couple, but I thought we were solid. We still went on date nights, celebrated anniversaries, planned for the future. Was it all a lie? Had she been checked out longer than I realized? To be clear, I wasn't seeing anyone. When I went out, I was usually at Dave or Jack's place having drinks and watching sports, or visiting my sister, 49, and brother-in-law, 55, who's like an older brother to me. I'd told my sister about Lisa's affair, but not my revenge plan. Her husband can't keep secrets. "I don't understand why you don't just confront her," my sister said over coffee one afternoon. "This whole charade seems exhausting." "It is," I admitted, "but I need to be prepared. I need to protect myself and the girls. And making her think you're cheating accomplishes that how?" I sighed. "It's not about making her think I'm cheating. It's about creating unpredictability, taking away her sense of control. Right now, she thinks she's managing everything perfectly. Her affair, her marriage, her image. I'm showing her she doesn't have the control she thinks she does." My sister shook her head. "Just be careful. Games like this have a way of getting complicated." Fast forward to October. My fake affair had been going for 3 months, and Lisa was hyper-aware I was pulling away. Since implementing my plan, I hadn't touched her. No hugs, kisses, or intimacy. Not that she needed it. She was still sleeping with Jerk, just at his place or hotels. The distance between us had become a physical presence in our home, like a third person living with us. We moved around each other carefully, speaking only when necessary, avoiding eye contact. Our youngest daughter noticed, of course. "Are you and Mom fighting?" Emma asked one Saturday morning while Lisa was out running errands. I put down my coffee. "What makes you ask that? You don't talk anymore," she said, her eyes downcast. "And you're never home at the same time." My heart broke for her. At 12, she was perceptive enough to sense the tension but too young to understand its cause. "Adult relationships get complicated sometimes, sweetheart. But I want you to know that both your mom and I love you very much. That never changes. She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. I made a mental note to make sure she had extra support when everything finally came to light. On October 20th, Lisa called me at work, which hadn't happened in months, asking me to come straight home because she had something important to discuss. I half expected she was going to confess, but of course not. Instead, she asked if I was unhappy with her. The audacity. She mentioned I was spending too much time away, showing no affection, and our intimate life had died. She suggested I was resentful of how she treated me during my recovery. Then came the punchline. She asked if I was cheating on her. I arrived home to find her sitting at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. She'd clearly put effort into her appearance. Hair styled, makeup done, wearing the sweater I'd given her last Christmas. "What's so important?" I asked, not bothering to remove my jacket. "Sit down, please," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. I remained standing. "I'd rather not. Just say what you need to say." She took a deep breath. "I feel like I'm losing you. You're distant, cold. You're never home anymore. We haven't been intimate in months." I said nothing, just watched her squirm under my gaze. "Is it because of how I treated you during your recovery?" She continued. "I know I wasn't as supportive as I should have been. I was stressed with work and— Is that what this is about?" I interrupted. "You feeling guilty about how you acted when I was injured?" "No, it's about us," she insisted. "Something's wrong, and I want to fix it." I almost laughed at the irony. Now she wanted to fix things? "Are you seeing someone else?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I literally collapsed on the floor laughing hysterically, like maniacal cackling that would make the Joker proud. To her, it probably looked like I was laughing off the accusation, but I was actually laughing at the sheer irony. I was in tears, pounding the floor for a good 2 minutes before composing myself. I sat up, looked her in the eyes for the first time in months, shook my head without answering, stood up, brushed myself off, kissed the top of her head, and went about my evening. The look on her face was priceless, a mixture of confusion, relief, and lingering suspicion. She didn't know how to interpret my reaction. Was I laughing because the idea was absurd, or because I'd been caught? The uncertainty was exactly what I wanted. Later that night in my office, I thought screw it, and checked the app to see what she was telling Jerk. They were texting in real time. I know he's cheating. I asked him tonight and he literally laughed in my face. He fell on the floor laughing for like 5 minutes. He doesn't even care how I feel anymore. I don't know how or why, but he's gone. I know I've lost him. This is karma. The smile on my face must have been enormous. She was breaking. Jerk's response came quickly. "You're overreacting." He probably laughed because the idea is ridiculous. "Lisa, you didn't see him. It was like he found the whole thing hilarious. Like I'm a joke to him." Jerk. "Maybe he's just dealing with his own stuff. Doesn't mean he's cheating." Lisa. "He comes home late smelling like perfume. He's secretive with his phone. He changed all his passwords. He hardly looks at me anymore." Jerk tried consoling her, saying if I cared enough, she wouldn't have needed him, but her responses showed she was having doubts. She had the nerve to cheat because I couldn't fulfill my duties due to a legitimate injury, continuing the affair for nearly a year, but the idea of losing me to another woman made her waver? Pathetic. Jerk. "Look, if he really cared about your marriage, you wouldn't have ended up with me. You said yourself he's been emotionally absent for years." Lisa. "I know, but now I'm wondering if that was my perception or reality. He was always there for me before his injury. Always supportive, always loving." Jerk. "So what? Now you're defending him? After all the times you complained about how boring your marriage was?" Lisa. "I'm not defending him. I'm just confused. Something's changed. Throughout all this, I was executing the second part of my plan, getting my finances in order. In September, I met with a divorce attorney, with the mountain of evidence I'd collected, and since we live in a fault divorce state, I could really nail her in court. My lawyer advised me to organize my finances in preparation for asset division. I went further by secretly moving my money from our joint account to a personal one, and began apartment hunting for phase 2. My attorney, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who'd seen it all, reviewed my evidence with a professional detachment I found comforting. "This is quite comprehensive," she remarked, flipping through the binder I'd prepared. "Text messages, call logs, location data. You've been thorough." "I needed to be sure," I explained. "And now I want out, and I want to protect what's mine." She nodded. "In this state, adultery is grounds for fault divorce, which works in your favor. However, courts are increasingly moving toward equitable distribution, regardless of fault." "What does that mean for me?" "It means you'll likely still have to divide assets roughly equally, but her infidelity may impact spousal support. We can argue that her affair constitutes marital misconduct, potentially reducing or eliminating alimony." We spent the next hour outlining a strategy: what accounts to separate, what assets to secure, how to document household items of value. She advised me to start transferring funds to a personal account, but to do so gradually to avoid raising suspicion. "And the house?" I asked. "It was our largest asset, and the one I was most concerned about." "That's complicated," she admitted. "If you want to keep it, you'll likely need to buy out her share, or you could sell and split the proceeds. We'll need to get an appraisal." I left her office with a clear action plan. That same day, I opened a new bank account at a different institution and began systematically moving funds. Not everything at once, but enough to secure my future. I started with my personal savings, then moved on to portions of our joint account that represented my income. By November, I hadn't changed my behavior. In fact, I intensified it. This is where Rachel comes in. For context, Rachel and Lisa have never been close. I met Rachel freshman year of college, 2 years before meeting Lisa. Lisa has always seen Rachel as a threat because she's my closest female friend. There's always been an implied distrust. though Lisa never directly addressed it. Conversely, Rachel never liked Lisa, pointing out early in our relationship how Lisa imposed herself into our friend group while I didn't do the same with hers. Among Lisa's friends, there are no men except Jerk, while Rachel is the only woman in my circle. Rachel and I have a history that predates Lisa, but it was never romantic. We met in Introduction to Economics and bonded over our mutual hatred of the subject. She's brilliant, outspoken, and fiercely loyal, qualities that made her an amazing friend, but also intimidating to some people, including Lisa. The tension between them was subtle, but persistent. At group gatherings, Lisa would position herself between Rachel and me. She'd interrupt our conversations or find reasons to pull me away. Rachel noticed, but never commented, at least not to Lisa directly. "Your wife doesn't like me very much," Rachel observed once after a party. "She's just protective," I'd explained. Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Of what? Your autonomy?" I'd laughed it off then, but Rachel's assessment wasn't wrong. Lisa had always been subtly possessive, especially around my female friends. The irony now was staggering. Rachel had been stuck overseas due to COVID and finally returned November 3rd. Dave, Jack, and I celebrated her return with dinner and drinks at Jack's place. Just us, Jack's wife, who's also Rachel's sister, and Rachel, following CDC guidelines, of course. Rachel was jet-lagged but energetic, regaling us with stories of being stranded in Barcelona when the lockdowns hit. "I thought I'd be there 2 weeks," she laughed. 8 months later, I'm finally home. I filled her in on everything that had happened with Lisa, showing her some of the evidence I'd gathered. Her reaction was visceral. That manipulative, ungrateful, she didn't finish the sentence, just shook her head in disgust. "After everything you've done for her, while you were recovering from surgery, who does that?" "Someone who values novelty over commitment," Dave suggested. Rachel's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "And now you're making her think you're having an affair too?" "Not exactly," I clarified. "Just being unpredictable enough to make her uncomfortable." Rachel, the evil genius she is, suggested taking photos similar to those I'd found of Lisa and Jerk, showing us looking uncomfortably close, and posting them on Facebook. And that's exactly what we did. Lisa discovered them on the 5th, as mutual friends noticed my updates showing Rachel and me looking cozy. This really messed with her mind since she still believed I was cheating, but Rachel had been overseas most of the year. The photos were perfectly orchestrated to mirror those I'd found of Lisa and Jerk. Rachel leaning in close, whispering in my ear, my hand casually resting on her lower back, both of us laughing, looking completely comfortable in each other's personal space. Nothing explicitly inappropriate, but suggestive enough to raise questions. I posted them with casual captions. "Great to have this one back in town," and "Catching up with old friends is good for the soul." That night, Lisa tried confronting me about being so handsy in the photos. I saw this as the perfect opportunity to deliver my setup punch. "What about those pictures with you and Jerk from last year? He was pretty handsy too, but did I get upset?" Deer in headlights. It was the first time I'd mentioned his name. She scrambled to explain those photos away. "He's that way with everyone. I can see how it looks, but there's nothing there. I'll delete them if they hurt you." Her face drained of color when I mentioned his name. She hadn't realized I knew who he was, let alone that I'd been monitoring their interactions. "Marcus?" she stammered. "From work? He's just a colleague. A colleague who's comfortable enough to have his hands all over you in photos," I replied calmly. "A colleague whose social media I'm blocked from viewing for some reason." She tried recovering quickly. "He's like that with everyone. It doesn't mean anything. And I had no idea you were blocked. Maybe it's a privacy setting? I can ask him to unblock you." "Don't bother," I said, turning away. I was just making a point about the double standard. You can be in cozy photos with your colleague, but I can't catch up with an old friend? It's not the same, she protested weakly. "Isn't it?" I challenged, looking her directly in the eyes. "What exactly is different about it, Lisa?" She had no answer. For probably the first time in our marriage, she was completely speechless. No, the pictures weren't what hurt me. The year she'd been sleeping with him while lying about working late was what hurt. But as they say, revenge is a dish best served cold. From that night on, Lisa became clingy and attentive, almost annoyingly so. She tried initiating affection and intimacy, but I stonewalled her completely. Meanwhile, I continued archiving her conversations with Jerk. By this point, I was emotionally numb. Any desire to save my marriage died when I implemented my plan. Lisa's behavior shifted dramatically. She started coming home directly after work. She cooked elaborate dinners. She suggested family movie nights. She bought me thoughtful gifts, a book by my favorite author, a new watch, tickets to a virtual concert I'd mentioned wanting to see. One evening, she attempted to initiate intimacy, sliding her hand up my thigh as we sat on the couch. I moved her hand away. "I'm not in the mood." "You haven't been in the mood for months," she said, trying to sound playful but unable to hide her frustration. "I guess we have that in common," I replied, getting up to head to my office. "Wait," she called after me. "Can we talk about what's happening with us? I miss you." I paused in the doorway. "There's nothing to talk about. I'm tired, that's all." The hurt in her eyes might have affected me once, but now I felt nothing. The woman I'd loved was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized, someone capable of betrayal, deceit, and hypocrisy. She told Jerk I'd gotten worse, that she didn't know what to do, and felt like I hated her. I did. Then came the bombshell. She said she couldn't see him anymore. The guilt was too much, and she felt karma suffocating her. She couldn't risk losing me. She told him she loved him deeply, but was still in love with me and needed to save her marriage. Too late for that by about 8 months. Their exchange was brutal. Lisa, I can't do this anymore. I need to focus on my marriage. Jerk. Where is this coming from? Yesterday you were planning to spend the weekend at my place. Lisa, I know, and I'm sorry, but things have changed. He knows something. He mentioned you by name. Jerk. So what? He doesn't have proof of anything. Lisa, it doesn't matter. I can feel him slipping away, and I can't lose him. He's my husband, the father of my children. Jerk. And what am I? Just some guy you've been fucking for a year? Lisa, please don't make this harder than it already is. I care about you. I really do. I love you, but I'm still in love with him. Jerk. That's bullshit and you know it. If you loved him, you wouldn't have been in my bed last week. Lisa, I made a mistake, a huge one, but my family has to come first now. Jerk lost it, saying things like, he doesn't love you like I do, and you're making a mistake throwing me away. That text chain would be their last until about 3 weeks ago. His final messages were desperate. Jerk. You're throwing away something real for a marriage that was dead long before I came along. Jerk. He doesn't appreciate you. He doesn't see you like I do. Jerk. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Jerk. I love you more than he ever could. Jerk. Fine. Have it your way. But when he leaves you anyway, don't come crawling back to me. Throughout November and December, Lisa was in limbo, trying to gauge my feelings while unsure if I was actually cheating. Meanwhile, Jerk kept blowing up her phone daily, though she wasn't responding. I'd see her check her phone frequently, then quickly put it away. He texted constantly, sometimes apologetic, sometimes angry, sometimes pleading. She would look at the messages, her face a mixture of guilt and longing, but she never replied, at least not that I saw. Her efforts to reconnect with me became increasingly desperate. She suggested counseling, which I declined. She planned a weekend getaway, which I said I couldn't take time off for. She even tried recreating our first date. Same restaurant, takeout due to COVID. Same movie, same wine. Remember our first Valentine's Day? She asked one evening, showing me a photo album she dug out of storage. You gave me that silver bracelet I still wear. I glanced at the album without interest. That was a long time ago. 20 years isn't that long, she said softly. Not when you love someone. I didn't respond, just excused myself to make a phone call. Her words meant nothing to me now. Every sweet memory was tainted by her betrayal. Phase 2 was complete. Divorce papers ready, studio apartment secured with a 2-year lease, and all my money in my personal account. I was ready for the knockout punch. My new apartment was modest, but comfortable. A 1-bedroom in a secure building across town. I'd furnished it minimally with just the essentials. A bed, a couch, a desk for work, and basic kitchen supplies. It didn't feel like home, but it wasn't meant to. It was a transition space, somewhere to land while I rebuilt my life. The divorce papers were comprehensive, citing adultery as grounds and including a sampling of the evidence I'd gathered. My lawyer had prepared everything meticulously, ensuring I was protected financially and that Lisa's infidelity was clearly documented. Once you serve these, my attorney warned, there's no going back. Are you absolutely certain this is what you want? More certain than I've been about anything in years, I assured her. Thanksgiving arrived, and my oldest daughter and her boyfriend hosted a small gathering. Them, the boyfriend's parents, myself, Lisa, and our youngest. To maintain appearances, I initiated affection with Lisa several times that evening. Kisses on the cheek, hugs, arms around her shoulders. She clearly loved it, which was ironic considering this was the first time I'd touched her since that head kiss in October. Honestly, it disgusted me, but I couldn't risk raising suspicions in front of family. Our oldest daughter's apartment was small but festive. She decorated with fall colors and candles, and her boyfriend had helped prepare a traditional Thanksgiving meal. The normalcy of the scene was surreal, everyone chatting, laughing, sharing stories, while I carried the weight of what was to come. Lisa glowed under my attention, misinterpreting it as reconciliation. Each time I put my arm around her or kissed her cheek, she leaned into it, her eyes hopeful. She kept touching my hand, seeking reassurance that wasn't there. You two seem better, my oldest daughter commented when Lisa was helping her boyfriend's mother in the kitchen. Do we? I asked, non-committally. Yeah, Mom's been worried about you guys, said you've been distant. I forced a smile. Things are progressing. She seemed satisfied with that answer, though I hadn't actually confirmed anything. I hated lying to my daughter, even by omission, but she'd know the truth soon enough. Our youngest decided to stay with her sister that night, so Lisa and I went home alone. On the drive, she thanked me for being good to her, saying, I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here for you. I nearly burst out laughing again, but composed myself to reply, I know, I just need time. The drive was quiet, with Lisa occasionally reaching over to squeeze my hand. I allowed it, knowing this would be the last time I'd tolerate her touch. Thank you for tonight, she said as we pulled into our driveway. It felt like us again. I responded, neither confirming nor denying. Inside, she poured us both a glass of wine and sat close to me on the couch. I've missed you, she whispered, her hand on my knee. I took a sip of wine, considering my options. Part of me wanted to end things right then, serve her the papers, reveal everything I knew, watch her world collapse. But another part, the part that had waited patiently for months, wanted one final act of closure. For the first time since spring, we were intimate that night. I figured what the hell, with what I was about to do, might as well get one last round in before erasing her from my life. It wasn't making love. When I finished, she was just lying there like she'd been hit by a truck. no cuddling after. I just showered and slept in my office. To her confusion, I used protection. First time in 2 decades. She seemed puzzled but didn't ask questions. No way I was going unprotected knowing she'd been with Jerk for months. The next morning, I checked the app and saw Lisa had responded to Jerk for the first time in weeks. He wrote a novel professing his love, saying she was wasting time trying to rekindle a dead flame, that she'd been in a prison with me for 20 years and deserved someone who would cherish her. Mind you, this guy is 26, barely older than our eldest daughter, and this obsessed with a 41-year-old married mother of 2? What a simp. She destroyed our marriage for this pretty boy with a sensitive side. Laughable. His message was a masterclass in manipulation. Jerk, I've given you space like you asked, but I can't stay silent anymore. Every day without you is torture. I see couples walking together and think of us. I hear songs that remind me of you and have to pull over because I can't drive through the tears. What we had wasn't just an affair. It was real, deeper than anything I've ever experienced. You're not a prisoner anymore, Lisa. You're free to be with someone who sees your soul, who cherishes every part of you. He's had 20 years to appreciate you and failed. Don't waste another 20 trying to revive a dead flame. You deserve more. You deserve me. She told him the same thing as before. She loves him and enjoyed their time together, but couldn't lose me. I was still the love of her life, though she'd always have a place for him in her heart. They could remain friends, but the physical relationship was over. He begged to see her one last time that week, and of course, she agreed. One for the road, right? Who am I to judge after what I'd just done? I added this exchange to my growing archive. Lisa, Marcus, I can't deny what we had was special. You awakened parts of me I thought were dormant forever, but last night changed things. For the first time in months, I connected with my husband again. I think we might be turning a corner. Jerk. One night sex and you think everything's fixed? Come on, Lisa. You're smarter than that. Lisa. It wasn't just sex. It was different. He was present in a way he hasn't been for so long. Jerk. So what does this mean for us? Lisa. I can't continue our physical relationship. I need to focus on my marriage, on my family. Jerk. After everything we've shared, everything we've said to each other, you're just going to throw it all away? Lisa. I'm not throwing it away. I'll always have a place for you in my heart. We can still be friends. Jerk. Friends? Friends? I don't want to be your friend, Lisa. I want to be the man you wake up next to every morning. I want to be the one who holds you at night. Lisa. I'm sorry. I truly am. But he's my husband. Jerk. At least give me a chance to say goodbye properly. One last time, just us. Please. Lisa. I don't think that's a good idea. Jerk. Please, Lisa. For closure. I need to see you one more time. Lisa. Okay. Thursday after work. But just to talk. Jerk. Just to talk. Thank you. December 4th marked the beginning of Phase 3, Operation Ghost Protocol. Divorce papers in hand, new apartment ready. I needed to start moving my belongings out. But first, I had to tell my daughters. I called my oldest home that Friday night. With both girls in my office, I laid everything out. Not specifics, but that their mother had been cheating for over a year, and I was filing for divorce. My 12-year-old was devastated, especially since she'd recently experienced her first betrayal. Her first boyfriend had cheated on her just months earlier. Seeing her heartbroken again, realizing her own mother was capable of this, hit her hard. I dreaded this conversation more than any other aspect of my plan. How do you tell your children their mother has betrayed not just you, but them? How do you shatter their image of their family without destroying their sense of security? I sat them down in my home office, away from where Lisa might overhear. Girls, I need to talk to you about something important, I began, my throat tight. They exchanged nervous glances, sensing the gravity in my tone. Your mom and I are going to be getting divorced, I said, as gently as possible. My oldest, Allie, immediately asked, why? What happened? Emma, my youngest, just stared, her eyes wide and filling with tears. I took a deep breath. Your mother has been seeing someone else for about a year now. She's cheating on you? Allie asked, her voice sharp with disbelief. I nodded. Yes. Emma broke down immediately, sobbing into her hands. No, Mom wouldn't do that. I moved to comfort her, but she pulled away. You're lying. You're the one who's never home anymore. The accusation stung, but I understood her reaction. Emma, sweetheart, I know this is hard to hear. I wish it wasn't true. Do you have proof? Allie asked, always the practical one, even through her shock. Yes, I replied. A lot of it. I didn't want to believe it either, but there's no doubt. Emma continued crying, but Allie's expression hardened. That's why you've been acting different. You knew. I nodded. I found out months ago. I've been trying to figure out how to handle it, how to protect you both. Does she know you know? Allie asked. Not yet, I answered. I'm filing for divorce next week. Emma looked up, panic in her eyes. What's going to happen to us? Where will we live? My oldest took it better and suggested taking her sister to live with her until things settled, which I agreed to. We packed some of her things, and she asked if I'd be okay. I assured her, yes, sweetheart. I'm going to be all right. And so are you. We're all going to be all right. I promise. Then they left, and the hardest part was over. Time to launch the nukes. As I watched them walk out the door, I felt a mixture of relief and profound sadness. The secret was out, at least to those who mattered most. My daughters knew the truth, and while their pain crushed me, I knew that honesty was the only way forward. Over the next weeks, Dave helped me gradually move my essential belongings while Lisa and I were at work. These were things she wouldn't notice missing unless specifically looking. I got a new phone and number, sharing it only with those who needed to know: Dave, Jack, Rachel, my daughters, sister, and mother. Meanwhile, I maintained the facade with Lisa, who remained clueless. Dave and I worked efficiently, taking a few items each day: books from my office, clothes from the back of my closet, personal documents, family heirlooms that were mine before the marriage. We transferred them to my new apartment, creating the skeleton of my new life piece by piece. You really think she hasn't noticed anything missing? Dave asked one day, as we carried a box of my vinyl records to his truck. She hasn't said anything, I replied. And she's been so preoccupied with trying to save our marriage, I doubt she's paying attention to whether my collection of philosophy books is still on the shelf. The new phone was a critical step. I transferred all important contacts, downloaded essential apps, and made sure my daughters had the number. When my old phone would buzz with messages from Lisa, I'd respond just enough to maintain the illusion of normalcy. I trickled just enough affection to keep her off the scent, while she maintained limited emotional contact with Jerk. The affair fog was faint, but still present. All the while, I compiled everything: call logs, texts, pictures, emails, and made printouts. I must have spent over $1,000 on office supplies. I organized everything chronologically in binders, 14 of them, from the beginning of the affair until mid-December. The binders were a labor of both love and hate. Each page represented another nail in the coffin of my marriage, another piece of evidence that the woman I'd loved for 2 decades had systematically betrayed me. I color-coded them, created indexes, wrote summaries at the beginning of each section. It was obsessive, perhaps, but also therapeutic. Each highlighted text message, each annotated photo was a step toward my liberation. I put each binder in a box, gift-wrapped them, and addressed them to various people: my mother, her parents, her 2 sisters, her brother, her HR department. Did I mention Jerk works at the same company with a strict no fraternization policy? Several of her friends, Jerk, and Jerk's parents. I shipped them all on December 16th with delivery estimated between December 22nd to 24th. Perfect timing. The packages were wrapped beautifully: festive paper, ribbon, gift tags that read simply, "The Truth, Merry Christmas." Inside each one was a personalized note explaining that the contents revealed Lisa's year-long affair, complete with timestamps, locations, and explicit messages. For her company's HR department, I included a special section highlighting their violation of the company's relationship policy. Christmas Eve, Lisa came home at her usual time. I don't know if she saw Jerk. I'd stopped tracking her on the app by the 18th, having collected all I needed. As usual, she showered, spent time with me. We were intimate on the living room sofa. I know, I'm terrible. And she went to bed. That evening felt surreal, like watching a movie of someone else's life. Lisa seemed genuinely happy, unaware that less than 48 hours later, her entire world would implode. She talked about plans for Christmas dinner, about calling her parents in the morning, about the gifts she'd bought for the girls. "Where are they, by the way?" she asked as we cleaned up after dinner. "I thought they'd be home by now." "Staying with Allie's boyfriend's family tonight," I lied smoothly. "They'll be back tomorrow afternoon." She accepted this without question. "That's nice. They've been so welcoming to her." We watched a Christmas movie, her head on my shoulder. I felt nothing. No warmth, no affection, just a clinical detachment as I counted down the hours. The final phase had arrived. In the middle of the night, I wrapped the 3rd remaining binder with the divorce papers taped inside the cover and placed it on my side of the bed with a note saying, "Merry Christmas." Next to it, I left my old phone and my lawyer's business card. I packed my remaining essentials, enough to fill 2 backpacks, and left the home we'd shared for 20 years, for the last time. I took one final look around the house before leaving. 20 years of memories, Christmas mornings with excited children, dinner parties with friends, quiet evenings reading together, all of it contaminated now by her betrayal. I didn't feel sad anymore, just empty. This house wasn't my home. It hadn't been for a long time. As I closed the door behind me, I sent one final text to my daughters. "It's done. I love you both more than anything. Call me when you can." That was 1 week ago. To Lisa, I'm completely off-grid, gone, ghosted. She's blocked on Facebook, but I haven't blocked her yet to monitor the fallout, which has been glorious. My packages reached everyone, and Lisa is getting destroyed. Her youngest sister publicly called her out. Both parents condemned her. My mother absolutely eviscerated her. I knew Mom had a mean streak, but the things she called Lisa were unholy. The morning of Christmas Day, the texts and calls started flooding in. First from Lisa, frantic and confused. "Where are you? What is this binder? These papers? Please call me. We need to talk about this. This is insane. You can't just leave like this. Answer your phone." Then, from her family. Her sister posted publicly on Facebook, "To my sister who betrayed her husband and children for a fling with a boy, you've disgraced our entire family. Don't bother calling for sympathy." Her mother left a voicemail on my new phone. I don't know how she got the number. "I always thought of you as a son. What Lisa did is unforgivable. Please know that we love you and the girls, and we're here if you need anything." My own mother's response was biblical in its fury. She called Lisa every name in the book, then blocked her on all platforms after delivering a final message. "You had a good man who worshipped the ground you walked on. You threw away 20 years for a child who probably can't even spell commitment. You deserve every ounce of pain coming your way." Lisa has been frantically trying to locate me, posting desperately on Facebook, knowing I'm likely watching. But I won't say a word without my lawyer present. That'll be the next time we share oxygen. She has no way to spin this to make me the villain, because I've exposed her to everyone who matters in her life. According to a mutual friend at their company, she and Jerk are being put on administrative leave tomorrow, so she'll likely enter 2021 unemployed. Her Facebook posts have grown increasingly desperate. "Please, if anyone has heard from my husband, tell him to call me. This is all a misunderstanding. Please come home so we can talk. I made mistakes, but this isn't fair to our children. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please give me a chance to explain. No one is sympathetic. Not her friends, not her family, not even casual acquaintances who've heard the story. The evidence was too comprehensive, too damning for her to deny or minimize. As for the final 2 binders, one went to my lawyer as evidence for the divorce, and the last one is in storage to be burned in Jack's fire pit when the divorce is finalized. Do I feel guilty? Not in the slightest. For 20 years I did right by this woman. I gave her the home, family, and life she wanted, and loved her unconditionally. Never faltered, never strayed, never even considered breaking my vows. When issues arose, I communicated and worked through them with her. She chose another man's bed rather than telling me she was unhappy. She decided to step out with a younger guy who gave her butterflies. So no, I have no sympathy for what I did or for her. She can burn in hell for all I care. I might lose the house, a car, and maybe some monthly alimony, but since the divorce is filed under adultery in a fault state, that might be waived given my mountain of evidence. As far as I'm concerned, she's dead to me, and I'm never looking back. I thought I'd feel empty after executing my plan, but surprisingly, I feel lighter. The rage that consumed me for months has subsided, replaced by a calm certainty that I did what needed to be done. I protected myself, exposed the truth, and refused to be a victim of her deception any longer. My daughters are struggling, particularly Emma, but we're working through it together. Allie has been incredibly supportive, stepping up to help her sister process everything. We're looking at family therapy options to help them navigate the fallout. As for me, I'm taking it one day at a time. My new apartment is slowly becoming more personal, more like a home. I've reconnected with old friends, started a new fitness routine, and even considered dating again, though that feels premature. Rachel has been a constant support, checking in daily and reminding me that there's life after betrayal. She suggested I join her hiking group when I'm ready, a gentle push toward rebuilding my social life. For now, though, I'm focused on healing and on being there for my daughters. The rest, the house, the divorce proceedings, the financial settlements, will sort itself out in time. What I know for certain is this: I refused to be broken by someone who couldn't honor our vows. I refused to silently accept betrayal, and in standing up for myself, I found a strength I didn't know I possessed. The road ahead is uncertain, but for the first time in years, it's truly mine to walk.